Do you have stacks of single-sided 6x6 paper you'd love to turn into cards? Let's take a pile of paper and turn it into a pile of cards. Hi, I'm Jess from jesscrafts.com, and I'm going to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get started. Today I am working with some products from Park Lane, which is the Joann's in-house brand. So Joann Fabrics and Crafts here in the United States. I haven't worked with their stuff much in the past. I don't think I've bought paper crafting stuff from Joann's in probably, I'd say maybe 2 years. And so I recently went in, I just kind of wanted to see what my local Joann's had on offer, and I stumbled into a 50% off sale. So, of course, things just start jumping in your cart. You have to get stuff at those really good prices. And they have some high quality name brands. They have things from Ranger and Hero Arts, and it was all part of the 50% off. So certainly worth checking out. But let's get to my process here. This is a Park Lane 6x6 paper pad. It is normally priced at $2.49, so it's $1.25, and it has 12 sheets of single-sided paper. I really appreciated that their single-sided paper was, even though it was like this sort of bargain paper, it was of good quality. The papers were to an appropriate scale for card makers, because I think that's who's most likely to use 6x6 paper, and that there was like some bolder designs with some more subdued designs. So there's 4 designs in the paper pack, and there are 6 of each. So I picked 2 designs that I thought went well together, specifically the flowers and the blue, and there's another flower paper and a pink stripe. And so I thought, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically divide them up with my paper busting templates. So these are kind of like one-sheet wonders in the sense that you use up the whole sheet of paper. But mine are a little different because I like to make it such that not only do you leave no scraps, you make the same card, and I don't make a lot of cards with them. All the ones I chose today, you only make 2 cards with one 6x6 piece of paper. I prefer that because I don't want to be making like 6 cards with one 6x6 sheet of paper. I want to be able to use a lot of my pattern paper. I really love pattern paper, and I want to be able to move through my stash. Now, obviously this isn't quite stash since I just purchased this and then used it right away. But in a sense, to me, that was cool too, that I was so inspired and I knew I had my templates, so I could easily pick out a fun pack of pattern paper and get it used up in a weekend. So what I'm doing here is I'm sort of kitting up my supplies. As I said, I picked 2 sheets of pattern paper that coordinated. I picked a template to go with them, and then I picked the cardstock that I wanted for my mats. I chose pink cardstock for the set that had blue and floral, and I chose a yellow cardstock for the set that had the floral and the pink stripe. There are a lot of great colors in this collection. I found that the Park Lane Pastels cardstock, which I also picked up during the 50% off sale, because one of the reasons I went to the store is that I got a recommendation that it was good cardstock and similar to Recollections 110 pound. So I got a 110 pound cardstock from Park Lane. That's what I'm using today. And I picked the pastels, and they went really nicely, even though overall, if you had asked me, I would have thought, oh, this pattern paper is a very bright pattern paper. I think the pastels complemented it, and that having a little bit more of a subdued color for your cardstock can be great. I wouldn't necessarily pair a really bright cardstock with a really bright pattern paper, but I did choose the brighter of the 2 yellows. So here in this kit, and those plastic envelopes that I use will be linked. I picked them up on Amazon and I use them constantly. I love them, and I wanted to give them a little extra shout out here, because I recently spilled water on top of my stack of these plastic envelopes that had all my card making supplies in it. So I had these all kitted up and I was working with them, and some water spilled. And because they were in these plastic folders, they were protected. Now, they're not waterproof in terms of they do have opening flaps, but I was, with just a little spill, I was able to save my project. And so I thought that was a pretty like, just a little like checkbox from like, yep, this is why I do that, like to have everything sorted like that. But those zipper bags are great too. Anyway, I am now in the stage, so after I've picked the pattern paper and the cardstock I want to use, and I put that in the kit bag, now I'm ready to move on to the cutting. I don't always put the cardstock in with the pattern paper, and in this instance, I certainly did not have to because I did use it all very quickly. But one of the advantages to picking out your cardstock and your pattern paper and kitting it all up like that is if for whatever reason you find that you don't actually go ahead and finish the process of making the cards for a couple of weeks, months. Anybody have kits that they make? Like, yeah, I'm totally going to do this project. Yeah, unfinished projects from months ago. Happens to us all. But that way you've reserved at least one sheet of cardstock, so you probably have enough with one sheet, but not always. So I just want to be clear, because I'm cutting 2 pieces of paper, so I'm making 4 cards from each 2 sheets. So 1 piece of cardstock to make 4 cards wasn't always enough, but it usually was. So what I would suggest is if you want to reserve your cardstock because you might not get to your project right away, is to put 1 sheet of cardstock per 6x6 sheet of paper. That will often be too much, but you'll know that you have it and that you've already made that decision. So now I'm cutting the cardstock, I am cutting the pattern paper. As I go on to the next one and I need more yellow cardstock, I am going to start with the scraps that I have created from the other ones because there are 3 sets for each of the patterns. There, I did set aside 1 kit, like 1 card kit, so enough paper to make 1 card, enough cardstock, the card, etc., the card base. And I put that in a separate baggie. And that's like something totally just for me because I like to use to post a reel on Instagram. So if you love super fast card making inspiration, I post a lot of card making reels and I post extra tutorials that don't ever make it into a YouTube video, just little things that I like to film. I picked out this year I am taking my extra cardstock once I've cut all of my cardstock mats. Anything that's extra, not anything. Some of the extra I leave aside and I make fake foam tape. So I tape 2 pieces of 110-pound cardstock together, and that gives me just enough height so that I can put it behind something like the butterflies that I'm going to use in this video. And it will give them dimension without having to buy foam tape. So it's just a way of using up those little scraps that otherwise would probably just get tossed. Other scraps I will use later in this video, and you'll see, is to prop things up. So when I layer my cardstock together, and I'll do it on this card, I'll sometimes want my layers to be nice and flat. For my embellishments, I have some Park Lane sticker sentiments. I did not realize there were 2 sheets in each package, but that was a super awesome bonus because then I bought 2 packs because I thought there was only 1 sheet in each. And then I had 4 sticker sheets. So that was perfect because I'm going to make 4 cards with each of these. So when I pick a sentiment, each card can have the same sentiment because I have the 4 sticker sheets. But there are so many sayings on each sheet and so many like good card-oriented sayings that I think even just 1 pack would be plenty to make these 24 cards. And you probably still have extras. But it was nice if you're going to kind of just plan to recreate the project that it worked out so perfectly. Okay, I am working on my sketch number 7. This is 6x6 paper, making an A2 American Standard card size. So that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. If you like using 6x6 paper, but you like to make another kind of card, like 5x7, slimline, I have those sketches over on jesscrafts.com as well. So that template, that PDF printable that you see there in the corner of my desk, it is available at jesscrafts.com, and you can print it out for yourself. And yeah, these ones work with 6x6 paper and A2 size cards, but you can get other sizes if that works better for you. You'll see there's a whole ton of other choices available, templates available to you, and they are all no scrap templates because I love pattern paper. I do not like figuring out what to do with all the scraps from creating with pattern paper. So I have made these templates and done all of the math for you. So here is where I am propping something up. So this square panel, for instance, and it's true of the small rectangle there too, it is hanging off the side of this long rectangle strip there on the left edge. And I want it to appear like they're all really nice and even. So I've taken a scrap of cardstock and I've taped it just to the right side where it's hanging off. And so that way, that's all in line. I hope that that makes it clear. Here you can see where I'm using that sort of fake foam tape behind my butterfly, where I've taken other scraps of the pink cardstock and put it behind the butterfly. Then I've picked a sticker sentiment, and that first card is complete. Now I'm going to be working on template number 31. This one actually calls for some die cutting, which is a little bit unusual for my templates. Most of them, it's really just a paper cutter, and this is why they are so good for beginners. You don't have a lot of experience card making. A lot of my templates do not require you to own a bunch of crafting stuff. If you own a paper trimmer, or heck, a scissor will do, a scissor and a ruler, but paper trimmer makes it way easier, and I'll link my paper trimmer too. I have a Swingline Guillotine, super economical, and I've had it for years and there's very little that I don't love about it. Anyway, you have pattern paper and a paper trimmer, some adhesive, some cardstock. You're good to go. Here, I'm just using stickers, so you don't even have to have stamps. And then my embellishments today are from a website called Creative Fabrica, where you can buy the rights to Clipart templates, the rights to use them in your crafts. And so you can then just print them off and fussy cut them out. So then you can use those as embellishments on your card, and that's much more economical if you have access to a color printer and good color, reasonable colored printer ink. It can be much cheaper than trying to buy embellishments, like pre-made embellishments. Also, you can pick something perfect for your project. So in this instance, I picked out these butterflies. Let me back up. I will get back to the butterflies in just a second, but I cut out that circle, and then I cut out a circle slightly bigger as my cardstock mat. So I took a set of circle dies, and that would be an additional tool. That would not be so much a beginner thing to have, but not all of my templates require that. And I cut out the slightly bigger one. I used that as a mat, and then I covered the hole that I created. And the reason I do this is to make it a no scrap template. If I were to cut out a circle out of some piece I wasn't using, and then I didn't cover it up, then that would be a scrap. And so I sometimes get comments of like, wait, why'd you do that? And it makes more sense in these slower videos as you see what I'm doing. But just explaining that process. And the template will tell you more about that. This is template number 29. This is one of my fastest, easiest templates, but I still think it gives a great look, especially when you use two different patterns. And it gives you this really big focal point area. So there's this rectangle that is 3 3/4 by 3 inches, and that's so much room for you to like add a bunch of stamped images or add a big old die cut sentiment, whatever works for you. So even though it's incredibly simple, there's a lot of freedom. Like once you put those two pieces down, you can embellish to your heart's content. I know some people think my templates are like, oh, this is, I like much more complicated. I like stamp layering. I like all these fancy techniques. You can do those and combine it with the paper pad or the pattern paper. I'm just giving you a base. I'm not telling you where to add your sentiment or your embellishments or all that. I show you examples here in my videos, but I don't add it to the sketches because I'm just trying to show you how to use the pattern paper. All right, we're on to sketch 26, and this is another super simple sketch. This is one of my favorites to use when I have a really beautiful pattern paper that I want to show off. So I have this floral pattern paper here in the background, and now on the opposite cards it will be the stripe. So it's a little bit different, but I wanted an opportunity to use a big chunk of that pattern paper, and it makes for such a fast card. It's nice when some of the other cards are maybe a little bit more time consuming when I'm using like a paper pad, that I pick some that are a little bit more involved and some that are a little bit more simple. Sketch number 24. Again, all of these are over at jesscrafts.com. There is a blog post that will kind of break everything down for you, show you all of the cards that I made, link you to all of the coordinating sketches and all that. The butterflies that I used. I mentioned them, they're from Creative Fabrica. You buy the rights to the clip art to use in your craft projects. You print them off. Super economical, but also you can custom pick things. So often when you're at the store, you're like, oh, this is cute, you buy it. That is cute, you buy it. And then sometimes you're like, I didn't think about how many of this would go together. Maybe you're like, okay, I really want a cow for this project. And you look at all your stamps, okay, I don't have a cow stamp. Then maybe have to go online, purchase one, wait for it to come in the mail, etc., or go to creativefabrica.com, search cow clip art, and they'll give you all these different cute cows. And some of them are also digital stamps or black and white clip art, so you could print them and color them just like you would any of your other stamps. So if that's, if you prefer really doing the coloring, or like here, this is just printed in color. I did not color any of this. I just printed it off and fussy cut it out. And that is so quick to do for these bigger paper pad tutorials. Now, of course, if I were coloring all of these, that would take more time, but I am fussy cutting them. So I guess if you had dies, but honestly, when you're if you're doing the same repeated image, then you're going to have to put each one through the die cut machine. So that can take a lot of time as well. I don't think it's for everyone, but I do think that it's nice sometimes, and other times I love to color and I love to stamp, and I'm never getting rid of those. It is nice to just go like, hey, like in this instance, I saw that pretty little butterfly on the background. I thought, well, you know what? Let me just go find some butterflies that will be perfect for this, because I actually don't own a lot of butterfly stamps, or a lot of floral stamps for that matter. Sketch number 37. This one's kind of a funky one. It's all these squares and rectangles arranged in a bit of an odd grouping, but it was inspired by a very particular pattern paper that I found in a pattern paper pack where it had these sayings you had to cut apart. But I love that even though I made it to go with a very specific pattern paper with cut aparts and all that, it actually still works beautifully outside of that. And it still makes this fun, funky design. And it's something I would have never come up with otherwise. So again, in this instance, this is another time when I might prop up some of the stuff because they're all layered on top of each other. And you can, with any of these, go ahead and rearrange the pattern paper pieces in whatever way pleases you. I show you how to cut the pattern paper, and then I show you a sketch. In some other instances, I sometimes make multiple sketches for the same cuts. So you'll see some of my paper busting templates when you go over to jesscrafts.com. You open them up and there's 2 sketches, and that's because there are alternate ways of arranging them to make it work for you. So I would encourage you to check it out and come up with your own ideas as well to figure out how to use these pieces. So again, pop those up with my fake foam tape, add a little sentiment, and I'm good to go. This was a pink butterfly set, and I do think it might have been nice to pull in there is some purple butterflies and these paler butterflies. I think it would have been nice to maybe pull in some of the other colors, but ultimately I was quite happy with how this set of cards turned out, and really happy that I was able to go to the store, see this pattern paper, I just fell in love with it, and go home and just make them. Just use these templates and just bust that whole pattern paper pad out. If you found this video inspiring, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.